Hello everyone. Today we are discussing methods of plant breeding. We know what is plant breeding, isn't it? Plant breeding is the art and science of changing, improving, and maintaining the heredity of plants in relation to their agroeconomic importance. So, based upon the agroeconomic importance of plants, we are going to be engage in changing, improving, and maintaining the heredity of plants so that we can use it for the betterment of human life. So, how is it done? What are the various methods of plant breeding? That's what we are going to discuss today. So, there are different methods of plant breeding. Plant breeding is also called plant improvement or crop improvement. Okay. So there are different methods. First one is plant introduction. Acclimatization is another method. Selection of better varieties of crops or plants. Then another method of crop improvement is hybridization. Micropropagation also comes under the methods of plant improvement, and mutation breeding is also another method. So I've just mentioned 6 of them. There are many other methods of improving plants. We'll just stick on to a few of these. Okay, so first thing we're going to discuss is plant introduction. So what is plant introduction? It is a transfer of crop plants from place of their cultivation to new areas or different climatic and environmental conditions in which they were never grown before. So what we do in plant introduction is that wherever there are no wherever there is no a variety of a particular crop, to that place we are going to bring crop from an entirely different place. So for example, if there is a crop somewhere in China or in Australia, so we're going to bring that crop to our place. So that is called transfer of that crop plant from the place of their cultivation to new area, or a different, it can be of different climatic or environmental condition also. And it is important that this crop shouldn't be present here, or it should not be a native of this place. Only then we can say this plant introduction. Okay, so plant introduction is basically of two types. One is primary introduction and next one is secondary introduction. Now plant introduction is actually an ancient method. Okay, we know early man were nomadic people. So wherever they went, they carried the plants and animals along with their belongings, and whenever they migrated from one place to another, they took all these plants and whatever they used with them. And that's how we can see how the crops that we use today are being introduced or are present in many places. So plant introduction is actually an ancient method of crop improvement, and now we are looking at it in a different view. That's it. So it is nothing new to us. It is an old method, but we are just learning it as a new technology. That's it. So coming to primary introduction means introduction of a plant variety to a new area, or as I said, to a different agroclimatic condition without changing its original genotype. So as such, we are going to bring the plant it into a new area or a different climatic condition. So for example, wheat varieties like Sonora 64 and Lerma Rojo were such varieties. And another example is the semi-dwarf rice varieties that were obtained from Taiwan, the Taichung native 1, which was obtained from Taiwan, and China 10, which was obtained from China, were actually taken from that place and then introduced to India. So this is without changing its original genotype. The plant does not undergo any change, any genetic change. Now, any foreign variety that is directly introduced for commercial cultivation is called an exotic variety. Okay, now what is secondary introduction? Introduction of wild varieties or cultivars after selection or hybridization for uh, raising genetically improved varieties is called secondary introduction. Here what we do is we select the best out of what we have introduced, or we hybridize them. We use the native varieties also and hybridize the exotic and the native variety and raise a genetically improved variety. Okay, an example for this is wheat wheat varieties such as Kalyan Sona and Sonlika. So these are the two types of plant introduction. Now, what are the purposes of plant introduction? Why are we doing this? Why are we bringing plants from an entirely different region to a new place, introducing it, improving it? Why do we do it? There are certain reasons for it. There are certain purposes for it. So let's discuss what they are. First thing is economic use in agriculture, forestry and industries, etc. New varieties of plants or agricultural crops are introduced from different places to new areas for the use of new sources of food, vegetable oil, fiber, wood or timber, fruits or breeding materials for hybridization, etc. Okay, so we obtain these new varieties of plants for improving our food sources or our vegetable oil sources or our fiber sources or wood or timber or fruit or the existing breeding material can also be improved, just as I said, like we can subject it to hybridization with our wild varieties what or the indigenous varieties what we have out here to get an improved crop. Okay, next thing what we do is for the conservation of germplasm and biodiversity. So introduction of crop plants to new areas is important for the conservation of germplasm and genetic diversity, and also it can be for protection of certain species from extinction. So some species may be undergoing some threat, uh, some environmental threat or something, so we can bring them to our place and then protect them. So that can also be the reason, that can also be the purpose. Next is study of origin and evolution. Plant introduction help to study the distribution of crop plants and their wild relatives in different geographical regions. So next thing is we can study about these crop plants and also about their wild relatives. Next is aesthetic interest. We know new ornamental plants are introduced so that we can improve our aesthetic beauty. Okay, so these are the purposes of plant introduction. First is economic use, like plants which are used in agriculture, industry, all this is introduced for betterment or producing better yield, higher yield or disease resistant varieties, something like that. Next is conservation of germplasm or for the protection of that plant, particular plant itself. Next thing is study of the plant, study of where it originates, what are the different geographical agroclimatic regions in which they are growing. All that studies can be done. Next is the aesthetic interest. Now let's discuss about the procedures of plant introduction. Okay, so how do we introduce a plant to a new area? For that you have a certain procedure. So what is it? First one is procurement of plant or germplasm. So how do we procure the plants? That we'll um, discuss in the coming slides. So first we just go through what are the procedures, and I'll explain each one in the rest of the video. Okay, so first thing is procurement of plant or germplasm. So we are going to get that plant or whatever crop variety we need, we have to procure it. Next one is packaging and forwarding of the procured material. The third thing we are going to do is plant quarantine. Okay, the fourth one is cataloging, then evaluation and multiplication and distribution. Okay, now what is procurement? Procurement means plant varieties are obtained from other countries either by exchange, or we are going to purchase it, or it can be obtained as a gift. Okay, plants can be that is we can get these plants either by exchange or from purchase. We can go purchase that particular plant we need, or it can be gifted to us. So these plant materials can be anything, such as seeds, seedlings, buds, plant cuttings, or tubers, or can be runner, stolon, sucker, bulb, like that. It can be any vegetative or any propagule, vegetative or any propagule that can be obtained from another country. Okay, so that is the procurement. Then we are going to do what? Next is the prophylactic method. What? To prevent the arrival and spread of new disease, or prevent the arrival of insects or weeds from the other countries. Okay, so for this, in India we have an act known as the Destructive Insects and Pest Act. Okay, and this plant quarantine is actually managed by different agencies, or different agencies. For example, the plants of agriculture and horticultural importance are the quarantine inspections are done by NBPGR, or National Bureau of Plant Genetic Resources. Okay, and the plants that come under forest trees or wild varieties, then the plant quarantine is done by FRI, Forest Research Institute. If the plants are of taxonomic importance, then BSI does the quarantine inspection. Okay, so just as I said, these institutions have quarantine officers at seaports and international airports. So the main function is that they have to ensure that this plant material is free from diseases, pathogens, pests, insects, or any weeds. Okay, so and after checking, the material is given a phytosanitary certificate. Okay, and this certificate ensures that the material is free from any diseases or pest or any weed. Okay, so if we don't have this certificate, it will be rejected by the quarantine department, and it will be destroyed. So so these are the things these are the things that come under plant quarantine. And especially for food grains and all, food grains or other plant materials that can be imported for human consumption, then the quarantine inspection is done by Directorate of Plant Protection, Quarantine and Storage, which has its office at Faridabad. Okay, so this is about plant quarantine. Next thing is cataloging. Cataloging means we going to, after the quarantine, we've got a certificate. Now next thing what we are going to do is we are going to record the details of the procured specimen. Okay, so during this process, what they do is they assign a specific number to this specimen. So after assigning the number, the plant is given, it is included under either of these following classes. If it is an exotic collection, then EC is the prefix given to that material. If it is an indigenous collection, then it is given IC. If it is an indigenous wild collection, then it is given IW. So it is categorized. Okay, cataloging is categorized. So we'll discuss the next part of this session in another video. So thanks for listening. I hope it was informative. So we'll talk about naturalization, acclimatization, and the other things what I mentioned before in another session. Okay, thank you very much.